Welcome back to the Millennial Millionaire Show. For today's guest, we have someone that came all the way from Dubai. We have Bernd Skorupinski. Bernd is a professional trader. He's the CEO of Online Trading Campus. He holds the all-time record for the world's largest proprietary trading firm, and just a super cool guy. Excited to have you on the show, dude.
Thank you so much for having me here in Vegas, right?
Of course. So what brings you to Vegas? I know a little podcast tour.
Yes, we talked about this right before the podcast. So I'm right now on a world podcast tour. So last month I went actually all the way to Colombia, Medellin. This was also an experience. And then now I came to the US, to Vegas, next week Miami, then Phoenix, and then back to Dubai. So yeah, it's like a nice tour.
Mr. Worldwide.
That's what sometimes people call me, yeah.
It's awesome. So professional trader, you have tons of records. When it comes to trading, because I think a lot of people listening, most of the audience are young entrepreneurs. Maybe they're in sales. Maybe they have a business where they're 1099 or they're self-employed and they're really trying to focus on their earned income. And I think a lot of people know the concept of trading, whether it's Forex, whether it's crypto. Tell us a little bit about the trading world and how you got into it.
So I would consider myself a multi-asset trader, meaning I'm not trading only Forex, only stocks. I'm trading everything like stocks, futures, Forex, everything but crypto. Crypto I'm not trading actively. We talked also about that, right? So I have some crypto portfolio, but this is more like buy and hold. But actively trading, I do stocks, futures, and Forex. And I'm doing this full time since now 11 years. Wow. And before that, I'm 42 years. My birthday was last week.
You look great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to keep fit. So I'm 42 years old, trading full time, 11 years. And before that, I had a corporate job, a normal corporate job in the automotive sector, actually, at Audi Volkswagen. You might know the German car brand, but also in Dubai. I moved to Dubai in 2009. So more than 16 years ago. Wow. I mean, you hear people like just now it gets very popular, right? And there's that Dubai buzz and everybody wants to come to Dubai. But I moved to Dubai literally like 2009, 16 years ago for my corporate job at Audi Volkswagen Middle East. But I realized, and this was right after my studies back then. And part of my studies I spent actually in California at UCSB. Of Santa Barbara. This was also a very nice time, very nice experience. Anyhow, so right after my studies, I moved to Dubai, got this job at the Audi Volkswagen Middle East, that corporate job. And but I realized pretty quickly that the corporate world is not for me, for the obvious reasons, right? Like if you ask an entrepreneur, like, why don't you like to be in corporate? Like it's, you're not your own boss. You have a boss, you have a supervisor, right? You have that kind of that 9 to 5 grind. You're like the slave of your desk. You don't have like time freedom, and you also don't have like financial freedom. You're always like working for somebody else. You're making somebody else rich, right? All these like stereotypes, but they are true. That's why people don't like the corporate world. And I realized after a couple of years that like, that's really not for me. I want to become like, so my own boss, like an entrepreneur, have my own business. But I also at the same time, I never had like a real talent for anything, I would say. So I also never knew what I want to do with my life. So I stumbled up on trading. Back in the days, it was completely different environment. Right now, obviously, it's very popular, right? And like, especially after COVID, trading, everybody had like a trading app and was trading. But back in the days, you have to imagine this was like, I started 13 years ago, 11 years full-time, right? So the environment, there was no YouTube, there were no trading apps. It was like hard. If you wanted to learn, it was like hardcore 101 training, right? So, and I got taught by some former floor traders from Chicago Mercantile Exchange, but also from New York Stock Exchange. And pretty quickly, I saw results in my trading, but also then consistent results. And to cut a long story short, after some time, I quit my job. And ever since, I'm a full-time trader, and I'm not looking back, obviously. And ever since, it's a really wild ride. But I'm very glad, obviously, that I made this decision back in the days. Right?
Yeah, no, I love it. It's always cool hearing people's journey from the 9 to 5 to self-employed. And I think it's important for people to understand you didn't know what you were going to do. You just knew what you wanted and why you wanted it. And then, the whole trading industry fell on your lap.
But
So
I also think, sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's important to mention the time back in the days was different. These days, because everything is so digital and online, I realized that when I started trading in my early 30s, like my 29, 28, whatever age I was, I felt young that I'm getting into trading. I felt young because, you only knew like traders that were like very, very old school, 50, 60 years old. These days, the environment is completely different. You have people that are like 16, 17. They don't want to even like consider going into the corporate world. They want to be like entrepreneurs, right? It's like the time shifted drastically. It's because of the social media world, and everybody is like, let me say, pretending to have like all the time in the world and all the money in the world, and they accomplished that kind of lifestyle with like some kind of online business, like being their own boss, and people want to like they want to accomplish that as well. And that's why I think like these days basically almost nobody wants to go like corporate, like the traditional route. They want to immediately go into that entrepreneur.
yeah. No, it's a good point. Do you think that's beneficial or detrimental to the young people? Because on one side of the coin, to your point, teenagers, young adults, they have access to 16-year-olds driving supercars, to people on YouTube making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, to access to Robinhood and some of these platforms that we didn't have access to, which is great in terms of access. But similar to me, I went through the corporate world as well and working a 9 to 5 minimum wage. And I realized what I didn't want, which gave me the desire to know what I did want. So do you feel like it's beneficial for young kids to get all access? Or do you feel like it's almost detrimental because they're skipping steps in their process?
I think they're skipping. I believe, I'm old school, right? And I've also been in like both worlds. And I feel like they're as you nicely said, described that they're skipping steps in the natural process. Most of them, right? There are always exceptions, but you should not strive to be like outside the standard deviation, right? You should not be like the one out of the 1,000. You should always like, I think there's a natural progression. So I think it helped me a lot being in the corporate world because you learn how to follow processes. And whatever you're going to do, it's like a process, especially in trading. It's like you follow a process, you follow steps, right? You have to be organized, right? And stuff like that. You have to be disciplined. And you learn this kind of in the corporate world, right? And so for me, it was great that I have been in the corporate world. And then, first of all, to realize firsthand that this is not for me, but also to kind of having that corporate structure ingrained in my DNA, because you, as an entrepreneur, you also have like that. You need a structure. You need like processes, right? It's like eventually I realized that it's like, yes, you're leaving the corporate world, but again, you're creating your own corporate world in a way, because you have to follow similar principles that in the corporate world exist. It's just like you're working for yourself, right? And you have a little bit more time freedom on your hands.
Yeah, which I think could be a detriment for a lot of people. You know, one of the big things I see in my industry is you go from a W-2 to a 1099 role, and you go from being told what to do, being conditioned your whole life from elementary school to middle school to high school to college. You get out to the real world, you're working a job where you're conditioned when to go to the bathroom, when to clock in, when to clock out, and then you're pushed into this 1099 world, if people choose to do so, where there's no one telling you what to do. There's no one telling you to clock in. There's no one telling you to look at this trades or show up to the office. How did you manage that? And I know now you obviously run a company that teaches other people to do the same thing you do. How do you manage breaking people's employee mindset from going from that W-2 being told what to do to being a self-starter and being self-employed?
I firmly believe that this is something that you can barely teach. It is kind of, I would say, it has to come from yourself, like kind of intrinsic motivation. It's really hard, and you know, I always say when it comes to trading, for instance, I tell people, yeah, trading is for everyone because it's a skill that can be learned by everyone. And I always say, like, look, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, so I learned trading, so everybody can learn trading, because it's basically like you learn a process, a repeatable process, and it's like a skill, like playing the piano in a way. It's repetition, 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 and consistency and all these kind of things. And you just have to learn something. And I realized that for some people, it's already, they struggle, like, how do I learn something? How do I learn something? How do I sit down and learn something? To make notes, like simple, like for me and maybe for you and for other people who are entrepreneurs, which is kind of self-explanatory or like common sense. For other people who are like in a corporate world, or like have never really studied something to learn something properly, they struggle already with the basics of how to get started. You can kind of give guidance, but at the end of the day, it's like, you have to follow rules, you have to be disciplined and things like that. And this is something that has to come from yourself. It's you can hardly teach these things, right?
Well said. I want to demystify trading a little bit,
Yes,
because I think when someone hears trader, especially for me, I've never considered myself a trader. I messed around with Forex back in the day, catching pips like most people. Lost a lot of money really quick, so I stopped that. I consider myself more of a long-term investor. But what is really trading at its core? I know you can trade a lot of different things, lots of different sectors, but what would you give the best simplification of what a trader actually is?
Yes, I mean, you are basically in the financial market, and you trade the market actively. Trading means like you're taking positions in the financial market. And when I say taking positions, it's like every position should always consist of 3 elements. It's like an entry point, right? You enter the market, but also like a stop loss, which is your safety net. If price goes against you, you lose a certain amount of money, but then you should also have a target in place. So we use the acronym set, stop, entry, target. And that's why we call our strategy set and forget and get alive, because it's more like longer term. So what people usually, when you say like, let's uncover some myth when it comes to trading, which people think like they see that in movies and like I saw that in movies back in the days, but now people see that on social media, almost like in here, as a trader, you need to have like 5 trillion screens, and the more screens, the better you.
Not always true.
The better you are as a trader, and you need and traders trading every day, like day trading, very popular, right? But that's not really the case. That's not how the reality of trading looks like. Especially if you go also like a little bit more deviate from day trading and go more like into swing trading. Trading can be classified into kind of 3 categories. There's like scalping, which is kind of high frequency trading. We put this into brackets because it's something I would never recommend to any individual.
Is that like day trading? Or
no, different? It's like even like faster paced.
Oh, wow.
This is high frequency trading. So that's why I said like, let's put this into brackets. Like this is something I would not recommend to anyone, especially not to beginners. Then there's day trading, which is obviously very popular. And then there's swing trading, and swing trading is like, and then obviously you have like more like the investor type of trading or longer term outlook, position size trading. But I'm looking for myself and also for our students and for everybody who is asking me what kind of trading style they should practice. I always tell people go more into like the swing trading type, because it's kind of if you think about, so you have day trading, swing trading, and then kind of that position trading, what you like, the longer term thing, right? This is kind of the thing in the middle, I would say, right? Because if you think about, people go into trading, and what they got on social media, they see a lot of day trading stuff. Like everything is day trading, and you're only like a trader if you like on Instagram, if you have in your bio day trader, right? Yeah. Nobody, I mean, it's kind of funny to see, because I consider myself more like a swing trader, but you don't see in any kind of Instagram bio somebody saying I'm a swing trader. It's not cool, Mm-hmm. But if somebody consider themselves a day trader, that's considered to be cool. But it's not about cool. It's about trading. It's about making consistently income from the market over a longer period of time, consistently, months over months over months over months. Then this is cool, right? But coming back to these categories, I always recommend being more like the swing trader style, because it's the most practical way of trading. Because people, Day trading is basically almost like replacing one 9 to 5 job with another 9 to 5 job. You again become a slave of the desk, and you have to literally sit in front of the screen a few hours every single day if you want to practice day trading. And then we have to think about how practical this really is for the, let's consider it mainstream or for the norm. It's not really practical because people have jobs.
Yep.
People have families, people have hobbies, people have obligations, people have lives, right? So how can you have another side hustle that is kind of another 9 to 5 grind? It's just not, I always tell people, it's not sustainable. When you're like a young dude, you're a student, you have all the time in the world, and you're bored, go into that day trading. You get a lot of practice in as well. There's always some pros and cons. But if you're like kind of, I don't know, mid-20s, early 30s, and you have like a job, family, obligations and stuff, like a real life, then, I would say you have to trade according to your life. You have to find a trading style according to your lifestyle, and that's then considered swing trading. So positions that are being held in the market for like a longer period of time. When I say longer period of time, it's like a couple of weeks. So you're also active in the market, but on a daily basis, I would say instead of hours like day trading, maximum like 30 minutes.
So if I'm an average person and maybe I have a family, maybe I'm working a 9 to 5, maybe I have a business on the side and I want to start diversifying my income. I want to start creating leverage in my life because I think everyone knows that trading time for money will never create the freedom that most people are looking for. You need to figure out a way to get leverage and automate to some degree. Would the average person, Bernd, be better off starting to learn how to trade as a part-time trader to eventually get good and go full-time and quit their job? Or would it make more sense for someone to double down on whatever their career or their business is and then hire and outsource someone like you, maybe take a percentage or whatever it is, to then leverage their money in the market that way?
No, I would never recommend for people to go full-time. Never, right? This is like so far away to become like a full-time trader. And unfortunately, a lot of people, like when they start trading, they have already in their mind, I want to become a full-time trader. No, you first become profitable, and not only profitable for a month, you become profitable, consistently profitable for a longer period of time. And then we can talk about full-time trading if you want that at some point of time. But I always recommend people, I tell people, keep your job, multiple income streams. It's the best thing you can get, right? Keep your job as long as possible. And trading can be done on the side. That's why swing trading is so great. That's why I tell people, swing trading is the best side hustle. I emphasize in side hustle. It's the best side hustle in the world because you can do it on the side if you are good at it without additional time investment. Because when it comes to trading, you have to understand, that's why I also say trading is the best side hustle in the world, because trading is kind of the only business in the world if you want to make more money, it doesn't require more time. The only variable is capital. And the more capital you have, the more money you can make. But time is never part of the equation. This might sound a little bit abstract for the viewer who has never traded before, but the important takeaway here is like time is never part of the entire equation. It's never part of the entire equation. It's only you scale basically. If you want to make more money, you don't have to invest more of your own time. Like with any physical business, you have to always, you know this better than me, but if you have a physical business, right, to make more money, you have to invest also more of your time because you need more units, you need more, depending on what you do, like you need more people, more of everything, right, and more of your time. But when it comes to trading, time is not part of the equation. The only thing you need is more capital. And these days, this would be another topic. You can trade prop. That's why when you introduced me, you said like I'm the all-time record holder for the biggest prop firm in the world, which is FTMO. And so you can scale with prop capital. And this is basically you trade quote unquote other people's money. You trade money from other companies and you don't trade your own capital. This is prop trading, basically, in
OPM,
to simplify it.
other people's money. Talk to me about that. You're
Yeah.
one of the best traders in the world in the prop space,
Yeah,
which
prop,
I imagine translates over to other spaces as well. If you're
I don't want to
actually in
say
that
I don't
arena.
consider myself that, but yeah, I'm like, I gained popularity on social media because of my prop trading success. Yeah.
What skills do you feel like allowed you to get there? You know, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands, a lot of people from part-time, full-time, people that are probably doing it longer than you, shorter than you. What do you think allowed you to get to that pinnacle of the prop trading world?
Well, definitely my experience. My experience is priceless. I only started prop trading, in 2022. I had already back in the days like a bunch of years of experience trading, full-time trading experience, and then I only started in 2022 with prop trading. But I was already a profitable trader, profitable full-time trader for like years. And, when you're already profitable and you have like years of experience, when you then venture into prop trading, it's just like it's basically you trading your own capital. There's nothing different in terms of skill level. Obviously, the beauty about prop trading is that you don't trade your own money anymore. You basically, when it comes to prop trading, you get capital from other companies, right? So prop trading stands for proprietary trading firms. So you get money from these proprietary trading firms. How do you get it? Usually there are two different ways. It's called instant funding, or kind of where you can get instantly capital and you can start trading. Or you have like some challenge prop firms where you have to pass some tests. It's like a driver license. So they test you whether you can really trade or not, whether you have the skill. And if you pass that quote unquote driver's license, so when you pass that trading test, you get capital up to $200,000, $400,000, right? And you can scale to $1 million, $2 million if you're really good at trading. And then you get this capital and you can trade with. And the good thing is that if you lose capital, that you don't have to pay it back because it's the company's capital. And if you make money with that capital, there's like a percentage share. There's like the majority of the gains that you make, you keep, and a small percentage goes to the company. So it's kind of a no-brainer these days. And obviously, when I started off trading more than 10 years ago, there was no such thing as prop trading. I was trading all my life my own capital. But with like machine learning, AI, and the technology, this also the financial market changed, and the entire environment. So prop trading is very, very popular these days within the community, within the trading community. It's actually a no-brainer.
Are you only taking money from institutions, or do like an average person?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So these are companies, these are prop firms. You go on their website, you can buy. It's like you pay a fee for these tests, and then you get these tests, and then you trade, and then if you pass these tests, you get funded, you get capital. If you don't pass, you can repeat that process as many times as you want. It's again like from a conceptual standpoint, it's like making a getting through that driving license process. Whether you pass it, if you fail it, you can do it over again and over and over and over again until you pass it.
Let's talk about risk tolerance a little bit, because when I think of trading, and I can be way off here, right?
Yes,
please.
Yes.
We're in Las Vegas, right? So I know a lot of sports gamblers, a lot of blackjack players, not comparing trading to gambling, but to some degree there is a bit of risk. There's a bit of calculated risk. There's a lot that goes into it. It's also similar. I have a lot of house flippers on here where it's very heavy, capital intensive. Talk to me about how you manage risk tolerance, and does that translate into other areas of your life as well, being a professional trader?
That's a very good point, because it's also somehow a misconception that is floating around in the orbit that is trading is very risky. You hear that from non-traders a lot of times. Trading, but that's risky, right? But actually, if you're a professional trader, I would say trading is a business. There's almost no other business that is less risky than trading, because trading is always, if you do it professionally, it's always calculated risk. You always know at any point in time how much money you have at stake, how much money you have at risk. This goes back. I know we're getting a little bit of, it's always hard for me, it's challenging for me if I'm not in a trading podcast. So I don't know. For me, it's, how deep shall I go into like the topic, not to get too nerdy. But coming back to the set process, the entry, stop loss, target, that every position that you get into the market should consist of an entry point, a stop loss, and a target. And the area between your entry and your stop loss in the market, this is your risk. And you as a trader, you determine your risk. So I can say, tomorrow I take a trade where I have on the Nasdaq, on the Dow Jones, whatever it is, whatever market it is, I take an entry and I take a stop loss. And the area between the entry and the stop loss is my risk. So I can say I take on that particular trade $1,000 risk. And that's the only money that I can lose. I know in advance, I can determine, I predefine my risk. So if price goes against me and hits my stop loss, my safety net, I'm out for $1,000. Then I was proven wrong. Then I get to the next trade. But it's calculated risk. I never risk everything. And this is much better than any other business, because in other businesses you have like how much money you have at risk. You don't know, right?
Infinite downside.
Infinite downside. But in trading, if you do it professionally, really professionally, with a set process, then you have like, it's always calculated risk. And at any point in time, you know how much money you have at risk.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, because you hear these stories of traders all the time, like who seem like they're crushing it, and then a year later they're not in the business anymore. What would you say is the biggest difference between an amateur and a professional in your space?
What's the difference? Well, the difference is obviously, it's like, again, like in any other profession in the world. And this is a problem when it comes to trading. And I always say that when it comes to trading, it's kind of strange that, because trading is like any other profession, like being a doctor, being a lawyer, being an engineer, being whatever you want to take, it's like a profession. Now, in trading though, there's no real accreditation system. There's no real certification system. Everybody can call themselves a trader, right? You cannot call yourself a pilot if you have not been to, flying to school, like to fly a plane. And you cannot call yourself a doctor if you haven't been to medical school, and so on and so forth. But in trading, everybody can call themselves a trader. That's a big problem, right? Because the market is so accessible, so everybody can jump into it and place a trade and call themselves a trader. But they are not traders. They are I call them market participants. But when it comes to traders are, like in any other profession, they have specialized skill and also specialized knowledge. And what defines a trader for me? Somebody who can make consistently income over a longer period of time from the market, right? So cut the long story short, what difference the two people, the market participants and the traders, it's clearly like in any other profession, the specialized knowledge and the specialized skill. If this makes sense.
Time will always promote or expose you, especially in trading.
Especially in trading. And that's kind of also, when we talk about, risk again, managing physical risk and managing financial risk, the principles are always the same. This is an analogy that I like to make. It's like, if you jump off a building, you're an expert in using a parachute, right? If you jump off that building, not being an expert, using a parachute, and you survive, right? You think you have special abilities, but eventually you just got what? Lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this is what we see in the financial market so many times. People get lucky. They get lucky once, they get lucky twice. And what do you think they do, metaphorically speaking?
Ego,
they take a higher building, right? But when it comes to higher buildings, there's no bigger building than the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. That's the biggest building in the world. So you get my point. So eventually, when it comes to these kind of market participants, they kind of build up the risk, and eventually it will bite them in the butt. And the end result is worst off. You need to have that specialized knowledge, and you need to have the specialized skill to make it long term. Otherwise, I can guarantee you, eventually you will wipe out your account, whatever you do in the market.
No, I love it. It's fascinating. When it comes to, I'm curious your worldview on money, because I know you were always had the desire to be an entrepreneur. Trading kind of fell in your lap. What was your worldview when it came to money? I guess your money paradigm before and then after being around the trading institutions.
That's such a good question. And I can also elaborate a little bit on that, especially because people, when you ask them, why do you want to get into trading? What do you think is the first answer?
Money.
Cash, right? The cash, the money. But, usually if that's your sole purpose to make money, I can almost guarantee you that you will fail in trading. Because then you have the wrong mindset. You're chasing the money. Trading is a process that you have to follow. And, following the process, and I could also really go deep into that. But I'm trying to not to go, we could potentially, but we'll see how the podcast goes. But following that process, if you follow that process correctly, and it's a repeatable process, every single time with every trade that you take, it's a repeatable process. The result of following that process is money. You get my point? So it's like money is just the result of following the process correctly. So people, they focus first on the money rather than on the process. And that's the wrong approach, again, and then you will fail. You focus on the process, you do that right, and money is then just the end result of following the process correctly. So you have to love the process. You have to love the process. And if you don't love the process, if you only love the money, then you're a gambler, right? And you have that casino slot. In Vegas, you have that slot machine mentality that you use it kind of like trading as a lottery ticket. You have to fall in love. You have to kind of get passionate with the process. And it's and then and in trading, it's very important. And that's kind of the end boss, I would call, of trading, like the end game of trading. If you completely get detached from the money, and if you just get attached to the process, that you follow that process accurately, very precisely, because you know that if you do that, the money will be the result, whatever you do if you do that with the process correctly, if this kind of makes a little bit sense.
100%. Marry the process and divorce the result. I think in any business.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's so relatable to other businesses as well. But when it comes to trading, people see this as this kind of abstract thing that is completely detached from any kind of other profession, any kind of other business, any kind of other entrepreneur venture. But it's the same thing, right? So, yeah, if you're not, some people are just, as I said, everybody can learn the skill of trading, but eventually, I feel like people think they are good entrepreneurs, or they believe they might be good entrepreneurs, but they don't necessarily know what it takes. They have never experienced that, and then they realize along the way, maybe it's not for me, and that's also okay. They can try it out, right? But I see that also a lot of times.
Yeah. When you first started trading, what are some things that you believed about money that now you don't believe? For example, in my business, when I first got into solar, there were some money principles that I thought about life. I thought about success. I thought about just how money works that I currently don't believe now as I evolved as a business leader and an entrepreneur. I'm curious, you being so involved in the money markets and handling the ups and downs, if there's any money principles that you learned about creating wealth and creating abundance in the monetary space.
I think a skill of mine, or just maybe considered natural I don't know, this is a talent or so, I don't know how you would consider it. I was never too attached to money in general. Really never. I mean, I was making in the corporate world in Dubai, at Audi Volkswagen Middle East. In Dubai, it's tax-free salary. You make a decent amount of money. You could just stay there and have a good life. But for me, it was really my why was never about the money. It was really about, I want to kind of, when I was in the corporate world, and I always tell people, when I went to bed at night and I thought, shit, this is something I'm not looking forward for tomorrow. I'm kind of working for the weekend. I'm working for my next holiday. I kind of hate already tomorrow. I don't want to go to work, you know. I know it sounds very depressive, but it's not. But it's like, I think people who also experience that get my point. You're just not looking forward to like the next day. You're looking forward to the weekends, to the holidays. And for me, I was like always, I cannot do this for the rest of my life. I don't want to live like that for the rest of my life. For me, it was really more about finding something that I'm really passionate about. And I kind of knew, like, I sensed, or however you want to call it, I believe deeply that if I find something that I'm really passionate about, this will result in money as well. Because if you're passionate about something, and you can monetize like everything, right? And this with trading as well. You can trade in the financial market. So for me, it was really like more about finding something for myself that I'm looking forward to. And these days, like, since I'm a trader, I'm like kind of, I would say, quote unquote, hate the weekends, because during the weekends, the market is closed and I feel like something is missing. So it really shifted 180 degrees. So for me, it's really more like never really money centered. I was more like finding something that I'm passionate about and something that I can look forward to. And I feel like I'm having a purpose. Purpose was also very important to me. Now I feel like I'm having a purpose.
I'm curious in terms of your background, because you grew up in Germany, in Europe. You went over to Dubai about 11, 12 years ago. I've been to Europe a handful of times, and the culture there is a lot different than I imagined in Dubai and even in America. You know, I always find that when I go to Europe, and maybe it depends on where in Europe, but people are a little bit more relaxed. They take a little bit more time off. They're not so work obsessed and profession obsessed as much in America. I imagine Dubai as well being a fast pace. Did you ever have to transition your ideology from growing up in that environment? And maybe I'm way off, to then being in a world where it's more of like go, 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 go?
No, not at all. I didn't have to really adapt, because Germany is also so super like strict, like straight to the point, super process oriented. So I kind of grew up like that as well. So I never really had to adapt a lot in terms of these kind of values or.
In Dubai, what do you think makes that place so special? Because to your point, you know, you've been there for a while now, but now it feels like every influencer, you know, they're either in Miami or Dubai, right? Exactly. Everyone's trying to get dual citizenship. They're trying to, you know, ride the water slide. Like, what do you think is becoming so, you living there and seeing kind of the evolution of it, what do you think so attractive about it right now?
Because they want business. They want they want the expats to come. They open up for the world. So they make it easy to do business. And they're not, I mean, it's strict, but they're not like, when it comes to business, it's like very open, and you can easily, quote unquote, easily open up a business, right? And then you have like, you don't pay a lot of taxes as well. In Dubai, it's kind of a tax haven where it's like almost left pocket, right pocket in a way. And then on top, it's like, very advanced as well, and very fast paced, and you have just like a very nice climate. You have like the whole world being in Dubai. I don't know how many nationalities, like 182 or like close to 190 nationalities, and everybody is living in peace, because everybody comes to Dubai with the same goal. They want to make business. They want to make something out of their life. So they have all the same goal. And you know, and then they're kind of also strict with like, if you're quote unquote useless, right? Then you cannot be in the country, right? If you don't have like, so I think and that's why it's also so safe, right? It's also so safe. And I appreciate, because I have a daughter as well. She's turning 11 next year. So I appreciate the safety aspect as well a lot these days. I mean, the opposite would be America. I would not feel very safe these days.
Gotta be careful leaving this place.
Not necessarily for me, but for my kids going to school and stuff. But yeah, so it combines a lot of good things. So, by the way, I have to also say, no place is perfect on earth, right? There's no perfect place. That doesn't exist. But for like, if you want to make business, if you want to make something out of your life professionally, Dubai is these days, and was always the case, even when I moved there 2009, it's just a good spot to be.
We talked a lot about wins when it comes to trading, but obviously in life and business and trading specifically, you can't always win, right? You're going to have good days and bad days.
I love the topic, yeah.
How do you handle losing streaks psychologically speaking? Because everyone loses, but in your case, you're actually losing money. Most people is losing time. Maybe they're losing experiences. What are some things you do to cope with when things aren't going your way?
Yeah, you have to learn about that, right? This is something that, especially in the beginning, is something you have to get used to, because you're dealing with money on a date, quote unquote. You're not a day trader, so you're not trading every day, but you can say you're dealing with money on a daily basis. And this is something you have to get used to. And that's why I always tell people, when it comes to risking money, we talked about already, it's calculated risk trading, so you can determine how much money you risk. So you have to start with an amount, a dollar amount. We talk about absolute values, not percentage values, absolute values. You have to get started with a risk amount that you're like comfortable losing, and not only once, but a couple of times, because you have to repeat that process, the same process over and over and over again. And if you start risking too much money, once, twice, 3 times, maybe the 4th time you're taking a trade with the same process, you're getting kind of, shall I really take this trade? I'm like scared of losing money. That's why you have to start with a small amount when it comes to trading, everybody. And you have to get used to, and as a trader, you evolve. So meaning you have to get used to bigger numbers. And you cannot jump from, if you've never traded before, and let's assume like $100 risk per trade is a lot for you. If you feel like losing $100 now, I can barely cope with. Well, then you have to start even smaller, right? And you have to take into account that, hey, you might lose 3, 4, 5 in the beginning, 3, 4, 5, 6 trades in a row. So how comfortable are you? And this is the question you have to ask yourself as a beginner. How comfortable are you losing $100, $500, $1,000, whatever number that is, whatever number it's for you in the beginning, 5, 6 times in a row? How comfortable are you losing it? If you say like, nah, not really, then start slower. And that's what I call milestone planning. So you kind of increase the risk the more comfortable you get with like bigger numbers, if this makes sense.
Yeah. I give the same advice when it comes to investing. In my profession, it's all 100% commission salespeople.
Okay.
And typically most people, when they make a big check, they spend a big check. You start making good money, you buy a nicer car, you buy a nicer house, maybe go to Dubai a couple times and spend all your money at Louis Vuitton. When in reality, a lot of these people, including myself, this could be some of the prime earning years of their career to really set themselves up later on in life. So I try and teach a concept of, it's not as much of the quantity, it's more of the habit. If you can't invest every $100 from every $1,000, you're not going to be able to invest every $1,000 from every $10,000. So really getting the habit down. As a trader, someone that is in and out of the markets more consistently, do you also have more of a personal investing strategy, or do they kind of blend together for you?
They blend together. It's all kind of trading related. It's just the time aspect is different, right? That you might that you take like longer term positions in the market, shorter term positions, midterm. But it's all kind of, I would say, as you said, blend together. Like kind of everything is trading related, and everything is like kind of your trade, whether it's like up or down, right? Because in trading, and the casual viewer who is not familiar with trading might not know that. That's why I'm saying it. For us, it's kind of self-explanatory, common sense, but for the casual viewer might not be self-explanatory. In the financial market, you can make money on the upside and on the downside. That's why trading is also so great, because it's economic proof. You don't care whether there's next year a recession or even a deep depression or whatever happens with the economy, because you can make money on the upside and you can make money on the downside. So that's why trading is also so great, because you don't really, quote unquote, care what the economy is doing, because you can make money regardless if you're good at it.
Do you feel like you ever have a dopamine depletion from trading full time?
No. Not. I mean, no. Especially not with the way how I trade, or how I preach to trade. The kind of more like, again, midterm, not like short-term trading. There's no kind of and I've so many years of experience that for me, trading has to be, by the way, boring. If trading gets boring, then I guess you become a good trader. So for me, trading is boring. It's literally just like looking at charts, analyzing the charts, following my process, placing the trades, and then just like following up. That's it, right? Very simple.
Yeah, the boring aspect is, I think, a really good point, because I think in anything in life, if it's not boring, then chances are you haven't been doing it long enough to create mastery. There's a lot of people that go from business to business or space to space. I don't know how it is in the trading game, but I'm always dealing with millennials that they're a drop shipper, and then they're a trader, then they sell life insurance, and then they're doing this and doing that, because they're chasing that new high. They're chasing that excitement because they can't embrace the repetitiveness of just doing the same thing until it becomes boring. How important is discipline, do you think? Obviously in trading, but also just for anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur.
No, just like it's everything, right? These are a few traits. As a person, you need a few traits that are like essential, not only as a trader, but in life. And part of that is discipline, right? And it's not so much motivation, because motivation fades at some point, right? And it's the same. There are nice analogies, when it comes to going to the gym. It's the same thing. You see a lot of people when it comes to gym. They have like the high intensity. They do like, oh, I need to lose weight in the next 30 days, so they go like full throttle and go to the gym every day for like 3-4 hours, and then they're burned out, and they never come back to the gym, and they lost a little bit of weight, but then they gain the weight again. And it's the same with trading. You have like people, oh, let's get into trading, super excited. They go full throttle, all in. They over trade. They do too much in a short period of time. And then they're like realizing, that's actually more, quote unquote, more difficult than I thought. It takes longer than I thought to become a professional trader. And then they kind of lose motivation, and then they drop. It's the same thing with anything else, right? So it's like that kind of discipline, the consistency that you have to practice this for a long period of time. At least I would say, if you have like a good trading coach, or like a good ecosystem where you can thrive as a trader or to become a trader, you have to give yourself at least, depending on how much time you have, at least 12 months to see like decent consistency, to become like slowly independent. And it's like, and again, it's so interesting, because in trading, people believe, what? I don't see result within the first 3 months, I might be bad. In which business you see results in like 3 months? Hell no. But in trading, again, the mindset is completely different. You're like, what? I'm not a trader yet after 7 days, a crash course of 7 days. Sorry, but which business like you could become something or make money in like a short period of time? It's just not realistic.
Yeah. You now being the CEO, Bernd, and being responsible for people, right? You guys have a headquarters in Dubai.
Trading floor, yeah.
Yep, trading floor. Dozens of traders.
Yeah.
What was that transition like from going from you being the one training to now coaching, mentoring, and teaching other people to then trade?
I personally, I always loved the teaching part as well, like teaching other people how to trade. Because it kind of made me a better trader as well, because you kind of question the process, and you're trying to improve the process, and and everybody has like their own problems, their own like, there are multiple concepts when it comes to trading, and everybody has like issues with different kind of concepts, and you're trying to, okay, I have to explain it now in a different way, this concept, and that concept, you have to again like use a different methodology, like explain it even in a more simplistic way, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of, you're questioning the process non-stop, and it becomes ingrained in your DNA again, like the whole process much better than like if you can explain it in a very simple way, then you can also execute it, I would say, right? So I always loved that part, and I feel like it made me personally a better trader, or to also teach people.
How do you maintain the culture? Because I imagine with people that maybe don't have enough experience as you, it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster for some. Is there a way to facilitate the culture to make sure that it's a conducive, healthy culture in terms of your guys trading floor?
It's a good question. Again, it's based, again, it's based on, it's such an individual journey. It's such an individual journey. There's no one size fits all. You have, you have the single mom with 2 kids and a full-time job who wants to get into trading, and then you have the young 16-year-old dude who wants to trade because he wants to buy his first Lamborghini when he's 18. And so it's like, people are so different. So it's a very so there's no one size fits all. So, but you are trying the best to kind of preach like that one process that can be adapted and followed by everyone. But obviously then you realize if it's also not for everyone. But it's hard to say because it's just such an individual journey, and so much depends on your mindset and how you kind of, are you aware that you're starting kind of, when you venture into trading, that you literally, the day you venture into trading, you become an entrepreneur because you're starting your own business. But of course, it's a small business. It's kind of a startup, but you go into like entrepreneurship. Are you fully aware of what it takes to be an entrepreneur? And a lot of people, they don't see it that way, and I'm always preaching it, So it's kind of hard to tell, but people usually are not aware of what it takes, and it requires a certain mindset to then eventually go the professional route.
Yeah. I know in my business, I've been doing in the direct sales space for 12 years, and I've learned so much about the actual day-to-day of direct sales, whether it's prospecting, closing deals, communication, all that good stuff. But I think more importantly, it's helped me become a better person to bring into my personal life and bring into everything that I do. What are some things that you've learned in the trading industry over the last decade or so that you've been in that have really helped you become a better leader, a better person, a better father, so on and so forth? Because I imagine there are lots of lessons in there where if you can apply them in your life, yes, you'll make more money on the trading, but you'll also become a better person.
I think there are 2 things, especially it's the discipline part, that you have to, whatever you do, you have to be disciplined through your whole life, right? Whether it's trading or your personal life. I feel like I believe that I'm a disciplined person in general. Whether it's trading or like my fitness routine, my diet. I haven't touched alcohol since 15 years. I'm not drinking. I'm like super disciplined when it comes to my life as well. So I think that's really something that taught me trading, but also life in general, that this is kind of, for me, a must, that the older I become, 42, the more you have to be even disciplined with your personal life to kind of continue with the same performance, and also just to be humble to what you have. And I realized it in the financial market, once you get like a little bit too overconfident with everything, and you feel like it's going so well, nothing can go wrong. This is usually when the market the market knows that you think that way, knows, quote unquote knows, and they're teaching you a lesson. So it's really important in that business, and I think in life, to be like humble, like, and be kind of grateful for what you have and what you have accomplished. And it's something that I'm really always also, not the humbleness, but being grateful for things. You take something that I have to still continue learning. Like, you take too many things for granted that are not, you shouldn't take for granted. But this is still part of the lifelong learning journey, in a way that be humble to everything and grateful that what you have and what you have accomplished throughout the years.
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree 100% with gratitude. Whenever I talk to people and hear their story, it's always interesting because on one side of the coin, before they got into their entrepreneur journey, they knew that they would do big things. They had big desire. They wanted to be rich. They wanted to be wealthy. They wanted freedom, etc. And then the other side of the coin, they didn't really want any of those stuff, but they followed their path. And as a byproduct, they received a lot of that, a lot of the materialistic things. Do you feel like you thought you would be in the position that you were in today when you were younger? Or
Never,
do you feel like it? Never.
Oh my gosh, no way, right? It was always it was always a dream. Obviously, it's so crazy. If you since you asked this question, I mean, it was always a dream to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and to like have some materialistic things that you dream about, like when you are younger, that you only see in magazines, and like, oh, I would like to have this at some in like when I'm older, and then you kind of have this when you're like now this age, but. What was the question? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No worries. If you thought when you were younger you'd be living the life you are today,
yeah, clearly no. I would have never. I think, and this is the funny part, right? That if you had asked me 20 years ago, oh, in 20 years from now you accomplish X, Y, and Z, and you have X, Y, and Z, I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. Oh, please, yeah. If this is true, I'm satisfied. I don't want more. But you know how life is. You just take things for granted, and you have it, and then you even strive for more. Which is, by the way, not always a bad thing, because this keeps us pushing in life and don't stagnate.
Yeah, it's always interesting when I talk to entrepreneurs, because it's always the tightrope they're walking between being grateful, being present, appreciating what they have, while still being hungry, still pushing, still wanting to become more. Would you lean on the side of progress creates happiness for you, or would you lean on the side of be happy with what you have and more will come?
Unfortunately, progress creates happiness. Unfortunately, and I'm personally struggling with that. I think because sometimes people ask me, "Are you proud of what you have accomplished?" And I cannot answer that question, because I don't know how does it feel to be proud. It's like, is that a feeling, or is that like a thing, or like it's like same with happiness. Happiness, I think it's like a feeling, right? Because if you're happy, then you're unhappy as well, or sad, right? This is more like a feeling. For me, it's more like I would love to be in peace with myself, right? And more like in peace with myself. I think that's the ultimate goal, to be like in peace with yourself. But this is still like, I think, part of the learning journey.
It's difficult.
It's again, that's super difficult, and I haven't found a way to, like, I would say, be in peace with myself. So I'm still trying to. I think it's a good thing. Push harder and try to accomplish more. But I think that's also part of the purpose, and I think we need a purpose. And purpose is we cannot underestimate purpose, because I think when people lose purpose, they are getting into depression, like literally into depression, when they lose purpose. And I have purpose now, and I'm not worried about depression or like being depressed. I'm striving every day, and I'm looking forward to get up every day. But again, sometimes I should like maybe take a step back and like enjoy the moment. People tell me enjoy the moment. For me, it's hard to enjoy the moment. I'm always looking for, like, what do I have to accomplish? What do I have to do next day? What do I have to do next month? And so on and so forth. So, learning. We're still learning, right?
The blessing and the curse.
Yeah, blessing and the curse.
Yeah. Bernd, this has been amazing. My last question for you, kind of take you on a bit of a timeline. If you could go back in time, back when you were a younger man working at Audi, figuring it out, just moved to Dubai, looking to create your life, what would the advice today of today's Bernd tell that younger Bernd to accelerate his happiness, his peace, and his success? What advice?
Sometimes I get this question asked, but I always say I don't really know. I think all my experiences back in the days and everything, good or bad, made me the person who I am today. And I'm quite okay with the person that I am today. So I wouldn't have changed or gave any other advice, because I made so many experiences, whether it's good or bad. I think it was necessary to make these experiences and to become the person that I am today. So just continue grinding and live your life and make mistakes, right? You have to make mistakes in life. And the same with trading. You have to make mistakes. You have to lose money to learn from these mistakes. You don't learn from only winning trades. You learn actually from the losers, from the mistakes that you make, and then you can alter, you can change the process. And so yeah, I think I would say just do what you're doing, because the future is will be quite okay for you.
Sound advice, my friend. I appreciate you hopping on, man.
Thank you so much for the invite. And
where can the viewers find you? Maybe they want to learn more about trading, get connected with your company.
I have a YouTube channel as well, Bernd Skorupinski. These days, 150,000 subscribers, doing very well. So people, if they're interested and curious with trading, I share a lot of free, valuable advice on my YouTube channel. Just watch some content. If you like it, then you're at the right place.
Love it. Guys, check this guy out. One of the best in the world. Follow him. Check out his program. Dude, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
See you guys on the next episode.